Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Little. We're here a little bit late today, as advertised. Tomorrow we're going to be here bright and early on time, 9 a.m. Eastern. But today I had to go to the doctor's office again for the upcoming baby. I have some proper coffee. I just made it, Cafe Du Monde coffee. I'm ready to go. Chat program says we're working on Periscope. If anyone is here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Periscope, please let me know. Please say hello. If anyone's here anywhere besides Instagram, I can tell Instagram is working. It gives me good data on Instagram. It says everyone is here. It says hello, hello, hello. It says would you like to wave? Sure, we'll wave, 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 wave. We're waving at everyone on Instagram. All right. Mrs. Nix is here. Kevin's here. Jason's here. Well, at least I know YouTube's working, so welcome. We'll assume we're live. Like I said, I'm late today because I just got back home from a doctor's appointment. It's crazy how doctor's appointments burn all day. We had a 10 a.m. doctor's appointment. I had to leave at 9. Went there at 10. Was there for an hour. Came home. Now here we are. It's 12:30. Brutal. The day is gone. The doctor said the exact same thing the doctor said yesterday. Our incoming baby is perfectly fine. Nothing to see here. They said we don't actually need to go to the other doctor because it's just double checking, right? Today's topic of today is double checking, by the way. I guess I should make that clear. Double checking, reconfirming things, and also double checking in poker. We have two topics today, both called double checking. Because, might as well not be ambiguous. All right, double checking in life. For example, we had a doctor's appointment yesterday at one doctor, a doctor appointment today with another doctor to check on the incoming baby. Well, both of them said the baby's perfectly fine, and they said double checking in this instance is not necessary because we're going to get exactly the same information. They all use the same equipment. They're all doing the same things. You might as well just go to one. Okay, fine. Growing up, though, and even today, I do a lot of double checking. I want to make sure, especially things that I care about, are being done right. Which implies I have to learn a lot of stuff. I don't have to be like the best in the world at a lot of stuff, but I do need to know how to do a lot of things. For example, I double checked just a second ago with all of you with if YouTube was working, right? The program says it's working, but I don't trust it. I double checked, right? So, is that good or is that bad? And I don't know. So why would you not double check something? Well, the obvious answer is it takes time. But not only it takes time, it may also cause friction. I have this issue with Amy sometimes, my wife, where let's say we're going somewhere. We're going to go take James to a class. The class is on 67th Street. Whenever we're walking there, I always ask, like clockwork, I don't know why, are you sure it's on 67th Street? And she says, yes, obviously it's on 67th Street. And it causes friction, right? She gets mildly annoyed that I can't remember for the life of me that the class is on 67th Street. And that's understandable, right? You don't have to answer the same question over and over and over again. And you have to understand, I don't take James to class all the time. I do it once every month or once every 2 months because we have someone else who does that. And inevitably, causes friction. So, is it fine to cause friction in exchange for not messing up? Because funny enough, I had to take James to his class by myself the other day. I thought for some reason the class was on 68th Street. I walked into 68th Street. Class is nowhere in sight. And I messed up, right? So then I had to get out my phone, figure out where it was, because who knows, it might be on 67th, 69th, 72nd. I don't really know. And so I feel like very often if you are double checking with someone who actually knows the information, because Amy is really good with that type of thing and I'm not, it just makes sense. That said, it does cause friction, especially if it's obvious to the other person, but it's not obvious to you. It's important to understand who you're talking to, right? I know that I'm bad with dates. I'm bad with scheduling. I'm bad with that kind of thing. Amy asked me today, when is your flight leaving to go to Vegas on Friday? I'm like, I don't know. When do you come back on Monday? I don't know. And I really, honestly do not know. And It's important to understand that people are different. Anyway, so the question is, should you double check on things? I think generally the answer is yes. Sometimes you will annoy people. But if they understand where you're coming from, the fact that you just do not want to mess up, you do not want to do anything wrong, I think it's probably just fine. Can I talk about building a bankroll from scratch? Oh, I wrote a whole article about that just for you. Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. Where do you play online? Party Poker and PokerStars. All right, let's see. You should always make sure things are as they should be. Depends on the cost, though, right? Imagine the cost was having to pay $5 to use the data on my phone when I'm out of the country. Let's just pretend. We're going hypothetical. And also, it would take me 10 minutes because the internet is very slow to double check the location of the place. It's probably not worth double checking the location in that instance if I'm pretty sure I know where it is, right? But if I'm totally lost and confused, it makes sense to use that. So there are costs to everything you do. It's very important to understand that. It's not just as easy as, yeah, double check, it's free. Because it's not free. Everything in life has an opportunity cost, and in this instance, double checking often makes you slower. So the question is do you take the Facebook strategy of move fast and break things? That worked well for a while, and now it's currently not working so well. Or do you take things slow? And I've typically taken things a little bit slower than I think I should have. I mean, in poker, when I was growing my bankroll, all my friends were gambling hard and moving up much faster than I was, despite having less of a bankroll than I had. And some of them ended up with all the money. Some of them ended up broke. So is it better to ensure I am still in action every time, or is it better to have variance? And it depends, right? What's the upside? What's the downside? It's not just as easy as yes or no. Let's see. Daniel says, taking a little break with us. We can call this a little coffee break today. Should use the same strategy in sit and goes as the same as sit and go knockout tournaments? Absolutely not. That's a different game. Sit and go knockout tournaments are really good for the bad players because the prize distribution is very flat, right? It's like, say you're playing a tournament, but 80% of the people get money back. Clearly, that's great for the bad players. And it also changes things significantly. We're not going to discuss adjusting to small stack cash games. I mean, 60 to 70 big blinds is not all that different than 100 big blinds. Kevin says, better safe than sorry. And again, sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. And it's important to understand that it's not as easy as it may seem. Because in my mind, I kind of take the view of Kevin, better safe than sorry. But at the same time, what if you miss significant opportunities because you sit around waiting, right? And it's tough to know what the opportunity cost is in sitting back and waiting and not doing anything. So, what else did I say? So double checking sometimes causes confusion. This happens a lot in tournaments, especially when you're talking to floor people. Like, imagine you ask someone when the dinner break is. They say 7 p.m. Okay. Then you all of a sudden hear someone else say, I think the dinner break's at 6:30. And you actually care about this, which you should not. But if you do care about this, you may go and ask someone else, when's the dinner break? Now they say 7:15. Then you realize, oh my God, I have no clue what's going on. And now what do we do? Right? Now we have a bunch of unnecessary confusion. Whereas in reality, if you ask the most intelligent source that you knew to start with, that answer is probably just right. Now, it may be wrong. You may have gotten wrong information. But, you know, that's a situation where sometimes double checking can cause confusion and frustration. But very often, most things you're checking in on just don't matter that much. Like the other day when I took James to 68th Street instead of 67th Street, did that matter? No, I just walked around the block. It was on 67th Street. I pulled out my phone. I looked it up. There was no real friction beyond, oh, Jonathan, you're an idiot. And then moving on with my life. Please straighten out the money on the shelf. Do we have money on the shelf today? Oh. There we go. Let's see. What do we do when people raise very big and small stacked cash games, like 60 big blinds? So, for example, let's say we're playing 60 big blinds deep. Someone raises to 7 big blinds. You should probably be all in or folding every hand you're going to play. Most people don't do that. They call and see flops, but you really don't need to see flops. Seeing flops is not a good idea when you're very shallow. You need to be jamming. If people raise to 2 big blinds, now we're playing a relatively deep stacked game like normal. Will Alex accept bonus credits for private coaching? No, he will not. All right. Okay, let's talk about poker. Double checking in poker. What does that mean? Well, I don't even know what double checking means, but I figured it meant the instance where you check twice. This comes up a lot, and we talk about this at my site, pokercoaching.com. Go there, make sure you sign up for your free trial, because this will be, we've already answered this a million times there. But whenever you check twice, I would be willing to bet that the vast majority of you are very exploitable, because your range is going to be very weak. Let's say, for example, someone raises middle position, you call big blind, flop comes 9-7-3, turns a queen. You check the flop, they check behind. On the turn, you check again. I can be very, very confident in that spot that you probably don't have a great hand, right? It means you have a marginal hand, like a middle pair, 9-7-3 queen. You probably have a 9 or a 7 or a 3, or you have nothing, right? A lot of people in that scenario, they bet with their queens on the turn. Many people even bet when they're 9s. And in that scenario, when you check, you're very weak. So you have to make sure your checking range is well protected, which means you actually need to be checking with some hands that can very easily check call the turn and check call the river. You want to make sure that you're not only checking with your garbage, which is really what a lot of people do. They check the flop, they bet the turn for value or protection, and then that's it. So when they check the turn, they have like a bottom pair and worse. And if your range is bottom pair and worse, what does that mean? Well, it means all your opponent has to do is bet the turn and bet the river, and they win, unless you make trips or 2 pair on the river. So how do you protect yourself? You do that by checking some of your decent made hands, like a 9 or a queen, especially the bad ones. Very often in that situation, you want to be betting your very best made hands, that's going to be like a queen or better, and your draws. And you want to be checking your marginal made hands, bad queens and better, bad queens and worse, and a lot of your garbage. So very often on the turn, say you check and your opponent bets half pot. In that scenario, if they steal the pot more than a third of the time, they're going to immediately profit. So that means you have to check call with 67% of your range. If your range is all bottom pair and worse, are you really check calling with 67% of it? Well, the answer is obviously no, right? You're going to defend with like 20% of it. And even then, that's going to be like bottom pair, and you're not going to be able to defend bottom pair on the river, so you're just going to get demolished. So in that situation, you have to make sure you're defending your range intelligently. Most people, when they check multiple times, they just have garbage. And if that is you, you are messing up badly. I would venture to say, like, you just cannot win at medium and high stakes poker if you do that. You will get crushed. You do not want to get crushed. You want to make sure that you are difficult to play against. James, welcome. Same name as my baby. We have 2 Jameses. Well, one James. One James is at the class, and we have another James. Welcome. So, say you're in position. Say you're the pre-flop raiser. You raise pre-flop, opponent calls. Flop comes whatever, 9-7-3. They check, you check, as you should with a lot of stuff. Turns a queen, they check, you check. River's a whatever. If your opponent bets there, half pot, again, you need to defend with 67% of your range. Is that right? 67%? Yeah, 67%. So, with 67% of your range, well, what is that in that scenario? That's going to be probably any pair, and also a lot of ace highs. A lot of people are not calling there with ace high in that scenario, maybe even king high. And it's important to understand what your range looks like so that you know how to properly defend it. So how do you know what your range looks like? Well, you study. And we have lots of homework questions at pokercoaching.com that forces you to study. I'm going to force you to do the work. And by doing that, you're going to be well prepared for these situations so that you're not lost and confused whenever you do find yourself in these situations. And it really is all about structuring your range intelligently. Most people don't do that. They bet with their good hands, they check with their bad hands. And that's it. And that's a big mistake. Kevin says, you're not a professional poker player, but you will be one day. Pokercoaching.com will get you there. It definitely will. You certainly don't have to be professional to be at pokercoaching.com. And, I mean, it's free to sign up for a week. You might as well sign up and go through it. Michael says, you play small buy-in cap games in LA. I mean, listen, you have to understand that whenever you're playing shallow stacked, top pair with a good kicker is pretty much the nuts. Someone sent me a hand actually today on Instagram. It was something to the effect of, it went limp, 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 limp. They raised to $18 and I think 1-2 with king 10 of hearts. Everyone called. They see it flop 4 ways. It comes queen, let's just say it comes jack, 6, 3, 2 hearts. Someone bets $50, someone calls, and we're playing $250 back. In that scenario, the person said, oh, this is an obvious call here, right? That wasn't even their question. They wanted to know how to play on the turn. But in that scenario, I think you have a very easy all-in with your overcard and flush draw. Because if they all fold and you steal the pot, you win $200, right? There's a $50 bet, $50 call plus $100 in their pre-flop. And if someone does call you, whatever, you still win 40% of the time. So that's a good example of a spot where a lot of people are playing way too passively. And that's fine, right? I mean, that's how you win. People call in that spot with their flush draws instead of jamming, and they let you realize your equity with whatever you have. A Maniac says, hello there. Your poker content is just what you need. Well, good. I sure hope so. I do my best to make it for you. So that is double checking. Make sure you protect your range. That really is what, in my mind, double checking means. Someone else said, what did they say? Double checking could be when the flop hits you and you look at your hole cards again. All right, so listen. Exactly what I do and what almost all professionals do is they look at their cards in a very routine manner. I personally look at my cards pre-flop, and then I look at my cards before the flop comes. Okay? And then very rarely exploitatively, I will look at my cards whenever 3 to a flush comes or 4 to a flush comes if I think it will make my opponent read into my range. Like if they think I'm going to have lots of flushes whenever I look back at my cards, clearly I'm going to do that and then bluff, right? That's usually against not such good players. Usually, medium stakes players. There's sort of a hierarchy of poker players where like some people you just don't do anything against. Like the best players in the world, I'm never looking at my cards. Against pretty good players, I'm probably not either. But if you're playing against like $300 no-limit tournament grinders, they're often thinking they can read into what you are doing, and very often they're just going to read into it wrong if you understand how they're thinking. It's important to understand how your opponents think. If you can understand how they think, you're going to be able to do subtle things to take advantage of whatever they perceive, right? And if you know how a player pool perceives something, then you can adjust. That said, if they're actually good, they're going to realize, okay, Jonathan Lowe knows what the player pool perceives. Therefore, if he's doing this, he's going to think I know this. So if I'm looking back at my cards to try to make him think I have a flush, then I'm obviously bluffing. If that happens, then we're just maximally exploiting myself. I actually have an article coming out by Michael Acevedo, a game theory expert, on Monday on my site, jonathanlowepoker.com, discussing exploitation versus GTO play. And if your opponents exploit you because they understand what you're doing, you will get crushed so hard if you're trying to counter-exploit them. If you just play GTO, they can't do anything about it. And there's a lot to that. Nem says, no fanciness with 60 big blinds. That is right. Yeah, fancy play syndrome is for fish. You think that sophisticated plays are lost on those players. What does sophisticated mean? I think sophisticated in a lot of people's minds means I'm going to check min raise a turn and bet 4x pot on the river or something like this. I mean, quite often fundamentally sound play is what you need to be doing the vast majority of the time. I mean, in my mind, people who play a lot of medium stakes cash games and tournaments are enamored with fancy plays. I mean, in all games, there are players who play for socialization. There are players who play because all they care about is winning. Then there are players who play because they like to push the boundaries of the game. They like to make fancy plays. They like to make big folds. They like to make big bluffs. They like to do things that feel fun. And these players often do succeed in poker and in most games up to about the medium stakes. But they never break into the high stakes, or almost never break into the high stakes. And if they do, they're probably just lucky. And it's because they make these fancy plays. They make plays that are so far from good, solid, fundamentally sound poker. And it just doesn't work in the long run. I mean, one of my friends is coming to mind. I remember this one hand I lost where he ran some insane bluff with like 9-2 and I had pocket aces and he got there and he won all my money. And anyway, he tried this in higher and higher stakes and he eventually got crushed. He lost a lot of money, right? And you may ask why. These strategies work against, at 10-20 no limit, pretty high stakes. But really, they probably weren't. He's probably just running hot because obviously your 9-2 is not going to get there very often. But if it gets there 6 times in a row, you probably think you're a genius. And inevitably, if you're getting your money in poorly, or you are letting your opponents off the hook and you're not getting full value or whatever, it's not going to work out in the long run. So don't be fancy. Let's see. A semi-bluff check raise with gut shots to try to take down the pot is what you're referring to. Is that fancy play? That's just good fundamentally sound poker. However, you think it doesn't work against those players because they're calling stations. If your opponents are calling stations, you obviously don't want to bluff them. This is just basic, like kiddie poker. If your opponents are going to be calling stations, stop bluffing. That's obvious. The way you exploit players who are calling stations is by simply betting for value. I say this in my books, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. They had it in Barnes & Noble today, which is always fun. Whenever I go to Barnes & Noble or any bookstore, I always check to see if they have my books, and often they have a few of them, so that's nice. It was right between Super System and Molly's Game. So it's kind of funny. But I discussed this thoroughly in that book, that if your opponents don't fold, stop bluffing, right? These players are not going to adjust to take advantage of what you're doing. They're not going to start all of a sudden drastically overfolding. They're just going to call and call and call and call, and you're going to crush them. So that's a function of you not understanding who you're playing against, right? It's very important to understand your opponents. Nim also says multi-way pots are very different. They are, because someone is going to have something in those multi-way pots very, very often. And if it's not you, well, it's probably someone else. Also, you have to realize, when you're check raising with a gut shot against the field, 4 players, that's not a good strategy, because someone's going to call you often. They should call you often because someone's going to have something, and you then need to get there to win the pot. So don't be running big bluffs multi-way. That's not a good idea. Now, I did just give you an example of where I would run a bluff when it went limp, 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 raise to 18, call, 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 call. Flop comes queen 6, 3, 2 hearts. You have king 10 of hearts. Goes lead for 50, call 50. Easy all in. That is a multi-way pot. But why can we go all in here but not raise with the gut shot? Well, with the gut shot, you have almost no equity when you get called, right? You have 4 outs, maybe 7 outs, maybe 10 outs when you get called at most. Whereas with the flush draw, you have 9 very solid outs that are good almost every time. And the king is probably good sometimes too on queen 6-3 or jack 6-3 or whatever it was. Plus you have backdoor straight draws, which are also relevant. So you have tons and tons of outs there. And lots of equity, right? When you have lots of equity, if your bluff fails, it's not so detrimental. But whenever you have almost no equity, if your bluff fails, it is detrimental. What's my favorite TV poker hand? I don't really watch a lot of TV poker. I don't know why. The one that I like, I was playing with this guy. I played with this guy named Take Chip recently. His name's Philippe, I think. He's from Canada. And there's a hand that he played against this guy who has since passed away. It's kind of unfortunate. Where Philippe was running a big bluff, and then he decided to he started blowing kisses at his opponent and started doing a magic trick where he makes his finger pop off. I don't know how you do it. The finger trick. He did this in the middle of the hand while he was bluffing. It was hilarious. I loved it. I actually have a blog post, my 10 favorite hands from YouTube or something like that. You can find it on my blog. That is one of them. It's fantastic. I think the commentary was actually in not English. I don't know what language it was in, but it was a fantastic hand. Just because the antics, right? That said, like what makes a good hand on TV? I don't know. Do you want a big pot? Do you want a fun play? Do you want... I want things that you don't see very often that are also fun, good-natured, and clever. I don't want just like a big all-in where someone gets lucky or a big all-in where someone gets sucked out on. And in this situation, after he did the magic trick, his opponent eventually called and he lost. So it failed, right? Fancy play, right? Ed says he wants a big pot. There are all sorts of big pots. If that's the case, just find the biggest pot. You found your favorite hand. I don't care about setups, for example. I hate on poker shows where they just... to be fair, sometimes if you're filming, like, let's say a World Series of Poker final table, and every hand is just like a big all-in where someone has ace-king and someone has queens, well, it's not going to be a very good show, right? Well, it's not going to be a very good show for me because I don't care about flips. Like, I hate when they cut away from the main table to show someone all in with tens and someone has ace-king. Let's see who loses. Doesn't matter to me at all. I want to see actual strategy in poker. I want to learn how people are playing. Obviously, everyone knows when you have 30 big blinds, you're getting all in with tens and you're getting all in with ace-king and someone's going to lose. Most of the homework questions have the opponents raising to 3 big blinds. Many of your players make it 5 big blinds. Does that change your range? Absolutely. Because you need to be way tighter. Because they are giving you worse pot odds. Let's see. You have many of my audiobooks. You may have some labeling issues, or may have issues labeling players correctly. Most players in live poker are generally weak, tight, kind of calling station-y, not too creative. Michael says, you're probably not outright jamming pre-flop when there's a lot of money in. Yeah, if it goes like 7 big blinds, call, and you have ace-jack, or pocket sevens, or king-jack, or king-queen, or 10-9 suited, you probably just want to be jamming all in with those hands. You have a lot of fold equity for 70 big blinds, and if you do get called, then whatever, you still have 40% equity, it's fine. Daniel says, if you know for a fact your opponent has a strong hand, should you be passive with your draws? Well, the answer is obviously yes. The problem is your opponents very rarely turn over their hand, right? And your opponents are rarely so bad to the point that you know that they have a good hand, unless you play with them on a very regular basis, but it's a tournament, so often that's not the case. But clearly, if you have no fold equity, why would you want to put your money in when you're behind, right? That's just a very logical point of view. You understand, when you have a draw, you're 40-ish% to win. So why would you want to play a big pot with 40% when you could play a small pot with 40%? You'd much rather play the small pot with 40% than the big pot with 40%. You find that when you learn something new and add it to your game, you start losing until you learn to use it. No, not really. How do you not let that affect your play? I mean, listen, if I'll tell you, well, funny enough, I just reviewed all of my hands from Montreal. This is going to be a big, long product I'm putting together, where I took 8th place for 100-something thousand Canadian dollars a few weeks ago. And there were 2 plays in that I have been working on a lot. One of them is check min raising with your entire continuing range when it comes a card and then a pair that's better in my big blind range than the razor's range. Like, say it comes, one of them was Jack 2-2, right? Middle position raise, they have like no 2s. I call big blind, I have some 2s. So I have the polarization advantage. In that spot, you want to check min raise your entire continuing range, or the vast majority of it. And that's something I've been working on, and it's been working great, right? It's just a more GTO strategy than what I was using before. So that's useful. Also, when it goes raise, I call big blind. It goes check, bet, call on the flop, check, check, turn. When I'm out of position on the river, if I have about 48 to 53% equity against my opponent's range, that's a good spot to lead minimum. And that's also been working great. Lead minimum with your very, very neutral hands, and then also lead with some nut hands, tiny, and some bluffs, tiny. It's a good strategy. It works great. And you may say, like, will this fail more often than not? Well, if you're implementing it poorly and, like, let's say, only lead with bluffs, well, obviously that's going to fail epically. Or if you only lead with the nut hands, you just lose a ton of money on average. So you have to make sure you're using the strategy as it is properly outlined, right? What a lot of people do is they instead say, okay, I'm going to start 3-betting a lot. So they start 3-betting willy-nilly whenever they feel like it. And inevitably, that does not work out because you're 3-betting random junk for no good reason. So you have to make sure you thoroughly understand what you're trying to implement. And that's what we try to do at pokercoaching.com, is explain to you when to use these strategies and why. All right. Didn't realize I was from Pensacola. Yes, that's where I'm from. Have I ever played at the dog track? I have not. I haven't really been back to Pensacola much. It's hard to get down there with family and life and business, and I've never played at the dog track. But my dad plays there. His name is Larry. You'll find him there sometimes. Does my site have a good resource for short-stacked cash game? Listen, short-stacked cash games and short-stacked tournaments are very similar. If someone raises, you go all in. And they're going to fold, or they're going to call, and that's it. I mean, this is very similar to what we just discussed with the 60 big blind question. What was the topic for today? It was double-checking. You're a little bit late. If you ever miss these, you can watch them on Instagram for one day in my stories. If you don't follow me on Instagram, by the way, please go over there and do that. I've been trying to get to 10,000 followers for a while. A few months ago, I decided I'm going to ramp up my Instagram content. So I started posting more on Instagram, and we went from 3,000, actually it was more like 1,500 people, to now we're at 9,900. We need 100 of you to go there and follow me on Instagram, at jcardshark. I know we have only 8 people watching right now, but if all 8 of you go over there and do that, we'll be at 9,908, which is way more than 9,900. So go do that. That would be very beneficial. So you can watch it on Instagram, but also all of these are stored on YouTube, at youtube.com/floattheturn. There's a playlist there for a little coffee. And also they're on iTunes and some of the other podcast apps. If A Little Coffee, you can find it the audio version only. I know a lot of people like the audio version. So go and do that. Let's see. Michael says, you're frustrated you can't get your bankroll healthy enough to play 5-5. Well, where's it going? If you're profitable, your bankroll will very quickly get to 5-5. Right? And that's it. I mean, stop spending your money. That's the best advice. JS says, you sign up for my Black Friday deal. Excellent. What's the best way to start? Go back to the very first quiz on poker coaching and go back to the very first homework question on poker coaching. And if you're in the inner circle, go back to the very first mini webinar from that. I don't think you necessarily need to go through my answers of everyone else. For those who don't know what poker coaching is we have a lot of quizzes, so go through all the quizzes, start at the beginning. Then we also have homework questions where I present a relatively difficult situation and I ask you what you would do in these spots. Not with one hand, but with a whole range. It takes me an hour or so to make it. It takes some people 3 or 4 hours to make their answers. So I go through my answer, which usually takes about 30 or 40 minutes. Then I go through everyone else's answer to try to give critiques on whatever people are doing wrong. And I don't think you necessarily need to go back and listen to all of those, but you should listen to my answer after you do the homework yourself. This will take you a lot of time. It's not going to be a quick thing, a quick and easy thing. People think you can study poker for 10 minutes and be immediately better. And, while you can learn tips, you're going to have problems learning to implement these things, and I'm teaching you how to implement them in an implementable way. If you go to a lot of training sites, they'll show you a pile solver chart with some strategy no one can implement, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you strategies to actually let you win. So go back, do all that. And if you are in the inner circle, you can find information for that at pokercoaching.com/inner circle. We have lots of mini webinars. I don't think you necessarily need to listen to me answering the call-in questions where the members call in and ask me their questions live. But the mini webinars are very, very beneficial. So go through there. Michael says, you're unable to decrease your monthly nut. Living in LA is brutal. Okay, move from LA or stop spending your poker money. Maybe you're saying you are a pro. If you are a pro, well then you need to play as many hours as you possibly can. When I first started playing, I played and or studied 14 hours a day every day for 3 years. Just what I did. That was the goal. The goal is to get lots of money so I could play higher and higher stakes. And I did it. A lot of people instead, they want to go home and have a beer and watch a Twitch stream and watch a football game on Sundays and all this stuff. And, that's a lifestyle choice. That's not the choice I made, and it's not the choice pretty much every world-class player made. But it's a decision that is up to you. You have to decide what is important. So you say you're not a pro, you have a job plus poker. Oh, well, stop spending your poker money. All right. Do we have any recommendations for my coaching programs? Yeah, pokercoaching.com. There you go. You say, plus you have family commitments, etc., and you can't move. It sounds like you're in a rock between a rock and a hard place then, and you have to figure out what your priorities are. Let's see, on Facebook, what do we have? Where can you study about hand ranges and hand reading? Pokercoaching.com. Sup from Canada. Hello, Canada. Could I make a video on how to study? I feel like I've done this before somewhere. But again, go to pokercoaching.com. You'll see me studying there in real time, going through the answers that I make for all of you. All right, what are some good ways for poker players to exercise patience and restraint? Understand that every time you make a strategy that is bad, imagine we have a bankroll, right? Where'd the money go? Here's a bankroll. We had to get $20 bills to tip people. Imagine every time we're playing, this is our money, and we decide to make a mistake. What you do is you take this, and you give it away. Okay? Now let's say we play again for a little while, we play great, but we decide to get impatient. Gone. We decide to play again, we get really impatient because we're tilted now, we lost 4 in a row. Now we decide to 3-bet with a 7-2 offsuit. Gone. Right? Next thing you know, you started with much more money and you're left with only a little. So don't give away your money. You don't need to give away your money. Imagine every time you screw up, you give away $20. I actually like something Barry Greenstein did in his book. Where is it? Ace on the River. He did this. I don't know if y'all can see this, but it's a $25 chip. That is the cost of this. 34 Canadian. Wow, they were really getting crushed back then. Poor Canada. Anyway, he's basically saying this book costs $25. Do you know how often you take this $25 and, well, $20 here, they don't have $25 bills yet, and you just shoot it into the pot? The answer is quite often, right? And realize that every time you mess up, every time you do something wrong, you are giving your money away. So, before you get impatient, ask yourself, do I want to give away my money, or my children's money, or my wife's money, or my family's money? Do I want to squander my future because I am acting like a fool, or feeling impatient, or feeling irrational? I know it sounds a little bit harsh, but, we have some people here who are grinding 1-2, trying to get to 5-5, and whenever they screw up, they are giving away their family's future. They're giving away their free time, right? Imagine you could move up from 1-2 to 2-5 or 5-5 if you just stopped being impatient. Well, I mean, now you get more free time, you get a higher hourly rate, you get to spend more time with your kids, you have a way better quality of life if you can just control yourself. So learn to control yourself. Louis Philippe, welcome. Luke is also from Canada. 2 Canadians here. I think Canada is not that big of a place. You two may live in the same city. You'd like to hear about calling 15 big blind shoves with bounties when we are deep. Well, Louis Philippe, it depends on how big the bounties are, right? If the bounties are tiny, they pretty much don't matter. What's really important, I'm not going to go through this now, actually. I wrote a blog post about this. I don't remember the name of it, but it's about a hand I played in Jacksonville. I'm sure you can just go through the past blog posts. You'll find a hand from Jacksonville. I think I put a $500 bill there because it was a $500 bounty or something like that. And it explains bounties, how to convert them from bounties to dollars. I know Rob Tinian, one of my friends who runs the Poker Backing Group, he has a calculator on his site, max-value.com, that has a bounty calculator that tells you how many chips the bounty is worth. Essentially what you have to, in progressive tournaments where it's variable, right? Essentially what you want to do is you want to convert the bounties to chips. And then whenever you can collect the bounty, you realize that that number of chips is in the pot. And then call accordingly. Jose says you're a member at Poker Coaching and you're catching up. You really love the information. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. You have a really hard time putting other players on ranges. I mean, that is a hard thing. It takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of practice. I mean, doing the homework questions will help you understand ranges. But in reality, putting your opponents on ranges is sometimes as simple as you putting yourself on a range in their shoes. Or sometimes it's as difficult as trying to figure out exactly what they're thinking. I mean, some players who are, loose and splashy and maniacal, they're going to have all sorts of stuff. So it's important to not think they have the same range as you. And you need to understand what their ranges look like in various spots. And sometimes against very bad players, you can narrow that range very, very specifically. And other times the range is wide open and you don't know. Sometimes you don't know the opponent's range, and that's something you have to become okay with. Hi from Wales. We have at least 3 Canadians here. 3 out of the 8 people watching this are from Canada. That is crazy. Maybe Canada's bigger than I thought. But yeah, Michael, I mean, this is an important question. How do you grow a bankroll? Again, go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll and read that if you have not already. But you have to determine what is important to you. And if going from making $20 an hour to $50 an hour is important to you, you should throw all of your resources behind that. And, I mean, imagine you could just 2.5x times your salary by devoting a month of your life to really grinding poker hard. Maybe that means not watching TV. Maybe that means not watching sports. Maybe that means missing some of your children's activities for a month. I don't know. I mean, you got to make sacrifices to do things. I personally gave up my college years, right? I did not go to parties. I didn't watch sports. I didn't have any friends. I mean, I had friends. They were all on the internet. And it turns out we're all the best poker players now. And that is a sacrifice. I didn't view it as a sacrifice because I was having fun and I was loving it and I was enjoying it. But sometimes it's what you have to do. Your family is important. Yeah. You're doing this ultimately for your kids' college. Right. And you have to ask, is it worth giving up a month of my life to try to get significantly better in order to put them through college? Probably, right? All right. Tyra says, you went broke because you were an idiot with money. Well, that's what happens. My video of Mike Sexton slapped you right in the face. Mike Sexton right here. If you have not already, go back and watch this video. I put it up just, what's today? I put it up yesterday. You can find it at jonathanlittlepoker.com/blog. It's a 1-hour video where I talk with Mike Sexton about how to hold on with money. And I have been poor with it in the past. Mike has been poor with it in the past, and we're getting better at it slowly but surely. And we want to make sure that none of you out there, goes through the same misery. Sounds like not the right word, but it really is miserable. We don't want you to go through the misery that we went through. And if we can help any one of you out there, that would be so beneficial for us because we know it's brutal. We know it's hard to be a professional poker player. And if you can hold on to your money, it's actually not that hard. The problem is almost no one holds on to their money. Thank you, Tyra. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you like my videos and whatnot, please share them with your friends, by the way. I'm such a great ambassador. I do my best. And you hope to meet me one day. If you ever see me, come say hi. Ricardo says, I hope I got your message about the CSOP ticket. If you send a message to support@pokercoaching.com, I get it. I see every email that comes through support. I have a support team who answers some of them that I don't need to answer, but if anyone ever sends a question that requires me answering them, I answer them. And if there's ever anything that it seems like an issue or a problem, I always deal with it myself. You're my friends. You are my friends. What's the top 5 videos you recommend beginners start with? I have a video on YouTube. It's completely free. Go check it out. When to continuation bet and how much. Very basic video. When am I coming to Vegas? I'm going to be in Vegas on Friday. I'm having a retreat for me and my employees. I'm not really going to have much time to do anything besides that. We're probably going to play a poker tournament somewhere on Sunday. I'll put it on Twitter that I'm going to be playing. It's going to be some local $200, $100, $200 tournament. So I'll post that. Brad says, you're very new to watching and decided to take poker seriously. What is the first mistakes I made when I first started? I was way too tight initially, and I drastically overvalued Ace X. I thought Ace X was great. I'm actually coaching someone for an upcoming $25,000 tournament that he got into for free or cheap. And he has a lot of flaws, but one of his main flaws right off the bat is that he plays Ace X from any position. He likes limping with it or raising, whatever. And that is detrimental. But he's a smart guy. I've went through 1 or 2 tournaments that he's played. I've pointed out these flaws, and he's immediately fixed them. Because you know why? If he cashes his $25,000 tournament for $50K, it's going to be life-changing, and he is willing to stop what he's doing and devote his life to that, because winning $50K is amazing. He's from India. I don't know how much money they make in India, but $50K for most people is huge. And he's willing to put life on hold to try to get better at poker, and I mean, that's commendable. He's trying to improve himself with this wonderful gift that he's been given. The smart playing cash. Wait. What some regular said, it's smart to play cash, or smart people play cash games and fools play tournaments. Is there any truth to this? It depends on what their goals are and how they approach them. A lot of people approach tournaments very poorly. I mean, hell, a lot of people approach cash games very poorly. Depends on how you approach it. Tournaments are to get rich quick with a smaller chance of success. I mean, there's more variance in tournaments, but imagine you can get volume up. It's vitally important to realize that if you have lots of volume, variance becomes very negligible in all games. And the thing is, those people just don't put in a lot of volume. They play 1 tournament a week and think that this is going to give them consistent income, and that's ridiculous. Oh, which of the 5 videos on poker coaching? I honestly don't know. Send me an email with that, because I don't have them in front of me, and I don't have all my videos memorized. I have many of them. Is there a standalone training app in the works? Definitely check out Instapoker. Instapoker Coach, that's an app that I'm involved with. I think it's very good. And I have the FTT Poker app, so check that out as well. Can anyone join the Sunday tournament? Yeah, well, it's going to be in Vegas. Anyone in Vegas can go. It's either going to be at Aria. I mean, it's not my tournament. I'm just going to play whatever tournaments at Aria or Wynn or Bellagio, most likely, depending on when we finish our work. Should you take a break and go back to the fundamentals? If you don't understand the fundamentals, you definitely should. Am I ever open to teaching more students? I do offer private lessons, but not very often. Feel free to email me. When's my next trip to the East Coast? I'm having a baby. I live in the East Coast, but I'm having a baby soon, so I'm not going anywhere. This trip to Vegas is my last one. You all will not see me for 6 years. It's a joke for those who can't tell. So I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. We've been going for a while. Tomorrow, we will be back with a little coffee, bright and early at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. But I think, sadly, Thursday and Friday, I'm probably not going to have a little coffee. I have a meeting with one of my good friends at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning, and then Friday morning I'm flying to Vegas. So I'm thinking there probably won't be a little coffee on Thursday unless I do it later, which I may do it later. The problem is I have a coaching session at 10 a.m., so next thing you know, we're doing it at 11:30 or 12, and y'all have to understand, I have a lot of work to do before my baby comes, and I have to get work done. Like, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to sit and make poker coaching quizzes all day. I'm ready, I'm primed, I'm ready to go. We've had our coffee, we've had a good talk about poker, so I'm ready to go do that work. But anyway, tomorrow 9 a.m., and we'll see how Thursday goes, but I definitely will not be here Friday, and I definitely will not be here Monday, because I'm going to be in Vegas. And I'll post on Twitter where we're going to go play that tournament on Sunday in Vegas so that you all can come and hang out and say hi. You can meet me, you can meet my team. I'm going to be out there with 3 other people. It'll be a lot of fun. All right. Good luck. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Be nice. Don't annoy people when you double check on information. And also make sure you protect your range when you double check in poker. Good luck. Have fun. Follow me on Instagram at JCardShark. Again, if we can get up from 9,900 to 9,908, we will be doing well. We'll get to 10,000 soon. Thanks for being here. Good luck in your games. And I'll talk to you later.